Alright, hello again. I think we want to talk about watermarking some pictures, putting some watermarks or at least some stamps, maybe some copyright notes or something like that. Let's take a look at this one here, for instance. This one's by Drawsattention, one of our dog wafflers of the moment, in the Dodden page. And we've seen this picture on some other websites, so we figured we need to perhaps put some watermark on this. So what I'll do is I'll start by copying this into the clipboard, and then I'll switch over to Dog Waffle. I've had it loaded here already, but let's just go through that one more time. Image, it's in the clipboard, right? So I can load it from the image here through the clipboard. I'm gonna go paste new image, and that of course tells me it's about to lose the old one, and there it is, the new one. So the first thing we'll do is we'll create a snapshot of that, because we might need to go back to that original. So store the do an image copy here and store it, and that's a great way to have sort of a snapshot of that current work in progress. All right, the next thing is we need to create the text or the label or the watermark that we want to stamp in different places. Now you can make that eventually a very visible place, like a signature that you want people to see, maybe in a corner or all over the place, or maybe something a little bit more subtle that's barely visible and doesn't take away from the beauty of the picture, but it's still there if you really take a close look. So what we want to do is first of all use the text tool, and this one here we'll just type in copyright or C, something like that, draws attention. And so that would be, and of course you need to work with the size of your text, the fonts that you want to use, and choose your preferences there. And it's okay if it's initially a little bit too big to fit on the entire image. What we'll do is we won't stamp it right into this image. Instead we'll take this text and convert it to a brush. So there's an option here when you are in the text tool. There is an option in the context menu bar here called Make Brush. Let's click on that. And so now it's a custom brush, and if I paint it, you can see it paints it all over. If you are back in the paintbrush tool and you look at the settings, your brush settings might show under custom if you are using color mode or matte mode. There's all sorts of other options for that, but the key thing is to say, okay, let's store that for a second. And now, just like we stored the image, we can store the brush, the custom brush. Store and manage a copy of this custom brush. And this one was orange because I think we had primary color. Let's see, color was set to orange at the time when we created that, and we may not like that. So let's go back to the original picture, click on the stored image, and go back to the text, and before that actually set the color to black. Select this and make this a brush. Alright, now if you click on preview, by the way, you can see PRV up here in the context bar. You can see the preview of that brush. Alright, so now it's in black, and maybe that's the one we want to store. So let's go to the brush menu and store and manage a copy. There you go. Alright, so here's our brush, and the thing we'd like to do is perhaps make it smaller. So let's go grab this and make it a little bit smaller. See if that's the size. Yep. Then we also want to give it an angle. We'll rotate it. So let's go to the second one. We have scale and rotate sliders here. The first one is scale. We just used that. Now let's go to the rotation and see if we can rotate it one way or another. Let's go about a little bit less than 45 degrees. Something like this. No, perhaps a little bit more than that though. So 30 degrees, I suppose, or whatever. A little bit more. Yeah. All right. So if I draw with that, I can place it all over the place, and that's of course a very pervasive watermark. That's not an invisible watermark. What we could do though is look at a couple of other ways. So let's store this brush in this orientation. I'm going to store under the brush menu. And now I have a copy of this, the one I really want to use. Let's delete the others. Let's get rid of the preview for the time being and snap back to the original image and select the brush. And oh, actually, yeah, we do want to keep the preview enabled if we have an idea of where it's going to go. Let me zoom in a little bit here. I'm going to use the Shift and Control key with the right button to zoom in so that we can see what's going to happen here. All right, so one way that we can work this and perhaps put a watermark here and then make it a little bit more subtle is to actually have the opacity down here on the brush and bring it down to, give it a try at about 50 or so. And you see now it's very transparent. It has very little opacity. So when you stamp it down, it's going to be far less pervasive on that image or intrusive. Still perhaps not perfect because, well, we need to adjust that a little bit. So we could possibly do this. We could go perhaps higher opacity initially, click it, and then go to the interactive undo that we have here, or that we have under the filter menu right here, fade last action. That's the same thing, or we call it sometimes interactive undo. So the interactive undo or fade last action you see now in the image where the text is that as I'm using the browser, the slider here, it's fading away to the prior image. So I have the fully present action that I just did with that text, and if I remove it gradually, interactively, undo that, you can see, perhaps you can bring it to the level where you still barely see it, but not too much. All right, so that's one way that you can work this. And of course you could actually put this into a couple of different places, but you would have to do the interactive undo each time. That's just the most recent action that will do interactive undo. So if you have, for instance, one here, one here, one here, and the fourth one here, now this interactive undo will act on just the last one, right? The most recent action you can interactively undo. So how do you make it so that all of these are faded? Well, one way you could do that, let's go back to the original image. One way you could do that is put that in a layer, and that would be here. Let's go add a layer and put it into the layer in different places, and then simply work on the opacity of the layer, or the transparency, if you look at it that way. Right, so there is a default mode here. That's probably just fine. And we can just fade it here. That will fade the opacity of this layer, and so that way you can have it all over the place as well, fade all to the same level of intensity. Now there's another way, and let me show you that. So I'm going to delete this layer. I'm going to go back to just a single image, and what I'll do is I'll switch over to the swap buffer, right, the almighty swap buffer. So the swap buffer, let's go jump with a J, or you can go here. See that J for jump? That's jump to the swap image. Alright, so in the swap buffer you currently have nothing there. What I'll do is I'll just place this in a couple of places here. I'll put it here and draw it wherever you want it. Maybe you can make this even at different sizes. You could do that with the random size control in the brush settings. Right? You could say randomize the size. Like so, but it's a custom brush. You have to make sure you allow the custom brush transforms, because sizing could take some time on slower machines. But you can see that now it has a little bit of random size, so they're not all exactly at the same size. You want to do that a little bit more. You have some really big ones, some slow ones, small ones, and then you can also set the step distance a little bit bigger. Let's clear this, and so now you have a variety of many different sizes. Perhaps too much, but this is more just to give you an idea of how you can experiment with that. All right, so let's keep it with something like this here. Okay, a couple of these, maybe one more here, one here. Okay, so how do we blend this into the main image, right? How do we let's go jump back from the swap buffer to the main buffer. How do we blend the two together? Well, there's a couple of ways you can do that. One is right here when you see the previews. Open that little tab here. You see the preview that shows you the current main image, right? If I click on this S here, it switches from the main image to the swap image. Well, if you click that, it combines the two together. And one thing you can also do is you can change what level of combination it will do. Now you won't see that here. Oh, there it is. There's the menu for set current layers mode, and you can change, but you cannot fade really how much or how little. Still, after you've done that choice, after you've chosen how you want that, let's say you choose a screen mode. Nope, that's not a good mode. Let's use the default mode was just fine. Let's use that. Now you can go, and so if you merge these together, this is only a temporary merge. You can still undo that. Just click it here and it will just not merge. It's just like two layers, main buffer and swap buffer, that you show or don't show together. And what you can do is you can merge the two, merge with swap. Now it's done. And what you can do now is simply go and do the interactive undo again, right? And that will do very similar to what we had at the layers level, but this is now interactively undoing the change that we had permanently burned into the main buffer. All right, so that's another way. Now I want to show you my favorite way. So I'm going to restore the main image, and let's get rid of the preview. So I have the swap buffer with some image here. Let's go see the swap buffer. Let's say I want to keep this, right? And I want to not see it. I don't want that text to appear in black in here. I want it to just displace the pixels. So we have a couple of ways here under the filter menu. First of all, you can do the combine with swap. There's a lot of different modes here, including XOR mode. You might find and or val. There are all sorts of different modes that might be useful. Multiply mode, for instance, right? You combine that and then you fade it, right? So that's a really quick way to combine that image from the swap buffer with the image in the main buffer. And if it's white, it leaves the pixels at their current value. If it's black, it darkens it. And you can then say with the fade on interactive fader or interactive undo, you can say how much you want to add or remove from that. But let me show you another mode. Okay, so let's go back to the original image, and we still have the swap image. This time I'm going to use the displacement options, right? So the displace, this one's pretty neat. Look at that. It's going to displace the image that I have here by the image that I have in the swap buffer. And so now this is not the perfect one, but it shows you the concept. It shows that there is an image appearing wherever the image underneath is, right? So the text is going to subtly appear, very subtly. But what I'd really like to do is not move my main image. I want to move just the pixels in where the text is supposed to appear. So I'm going to choose a different mode. There is displace by swap. Cloaking displays might be useful. Nope, still moves it around. Let's go a couple of others. Displays, pool display. I think that one is pretty promising. Nope, that one still has a little bit of a, yeah, there's a couple of different positions here that might be okay, but I know there is one or two more to choose from here. The jitter displays, that one might actually be usable. Well, that's too much. No, that's actually displacing, that's jittering the image wherever it is white on the swap buffer. So what we could do is switch to the to this one here and invert it, right? Image invert, so it's all black and we have a couple of white areas, and then we go back to jump to this. And so now if we do the filter display jitter displays, now we'll probably won't touch the now we won't touch the main image too much, but we will see a little bit of a jitter on the text. However, it's not very crisp. It's not easy to read that text when we have the jitter blur. So again, that's not the perfect solution either. I'm going to show you the one I think is ultimately going to be the better one. Well, color twirl is not bad either, if I recall. Yep, that one can actually work quite nicely. It stays inside the text, and you might need to invert it or not. Give it a try with the original white background black text, or invert it if it does move everything around on the outside of the text. But I think this one here is pretty neat too. That's the most recently one here, normal displays, right? And what normal displays does is it almost looks like 3D. I mean, that's really, look at that. It looks like an embossed mode now, right? So that's an embossing appearance that you have here. And so that could be actually really the way to stick with it. It doesn't disrupt the image too much, but it still puts a little message there. And that actually brings me also to another option, emboss by swap. You know, if you had it in the alpha channel, if you had that text in the alpha channel, which you can do, you can put you can get the image here and then put the where is it, the alpha, copy swap image to alpha, right? So now you have those marching ants there. You can show it under the selection menu with alpha overlay. You can see where the selection is or where it isn't. And you can also use now the displace by swap, because it's or displace by alpha. There, selection, effects, emboss by alpha. There you go. Not displace, but emboss by alpha. So you can do a sort of an embossing effect here too. It's very subtle though. It's not too strong in this case here. And that's, oh wait, I need to of course apply OK. So yeah, so now you have that embossing there, and you can go do the interactive undo to fade it a little bit. So control how much you want of that, right? Well, that's probably way too much there. That's really disrupting it. But you get the idea. This is a couple of different ways to work with that. So let me see the final one, the one I liked best, and then you get to choose your own. I got filter, emboss by swap. That would be actually a quick and easy way to do it, right? And you can say how much embossing you want there. But this one here I liked too. That was the displays, normal displays, right? And there too you can get some nice effects on that. All right, so thanks for watching. I hope that will give you some ideas of how you can work with the text to define your text that you want to put on it, either as a signature in a corner or all over the place at an angle, and then also to perhaps make it not too intrusive and not disrupt the picture too much. Just control it a little bit so that you can still see that you own it and you created that. And if people, in fact, you know, put your website on it instead of just a cryptic name or something, put perhaps your website on it, and you'll get free advertising if somebody still uses that image in their blog or on their, you know, in their website or in their forum. If they take that image, you'll get some free credit that way, you know. So that's another way to use that and to make it a win-win situation for everybody. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon in another tutorial.